Welcome back into the Sports Source. All microphones are fixed, I hope. Thanks for bearing with us. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. The weather is starting to improve, and many of you will be taking on home improvement projects in the weeks and months ahead. Start your project with a visit to A.G. Hines Company. They're easy to find. It's Hines Street right in downtown Knoxville. The biggest contractors in East Tennessee turn to these guys. You should too, because their prices are affordable and it allows you to do so. Plus, you get more than 100 years of experience when you go down there, legitimately. A.G. Hines Company. You see the phone number, they got a website. Visit them this week. All right, let's take a look at the updated bracket projections from this morning. First, Joe Lunardi of ESPN has Tennessee as a 5 seed, playing 12 seed Winthrop. Now, they went into the SEC tournament as a 6 seed in most projections. They are up to a 5 in most now, but he has them against Winthrop in the first round and then playing the winner of Purdue, Ohio if they get past Winthrop. Jerry Palm does a bracket report for CBS. He has Tennessee as a 5 seed against number 12 seed Georgetown, which that might not sound good to you, but we're going to tell you that would be a pretty good matchup a little later in the show. I'll explain why. And then if they get by Georgetown, they'll play Virginia, North Texas, the winner of that game. That's the Jerry Palm projection. Bracket Matrix is a site that compiles dozens upon dozens of bracket projections across the internet, and they kind of tally them up together. And they have, you see there, they're their 5 seeds as listed. So they got Tennessee kind of safely as a 5 seed there in most of these projections. That's the average. Has Tennessee as the 3rd best 5 seed. So you see where they've moved up from a 6 seed, and then you see the 6 is under that. That said, we've all seen this before. The NCAA, picking the field is not hard. Most people can project the 68 teams in. Where the NCAA screws with you a little bit every year is the seeding. That's where the arguments come in. That's where Jay Billis and Dick Vitale go nuts. But in terms of Tennessee rising up the board, one of the reasons that NCAA net ranking is up to 13. Guys, this time a week ago, they were about 22nd, 23rd. They have really climbed by beating Florida twice and Alabama once. I will ask you, in terms of Tennessee being projected anywhere from a 4 to a 7, most of them looking at 5 and 6, 7 would be a real hose job. Do you guys agree that Tennessee is trending upwards? Do you like what you've seen with the 2 games against Florida and the 1 game against Alabama?
It definitely instills some optimism in me, but granted, I'm a VFL, and so I'm always going to be optimistic about the Vols basketball. And so what I saw over the last 3 games, it kind of gave me a little bit more insight on what this team has fought through and who they're trying to become. In the SEC tournament, they were able to show me something as far as body language, physicality, and team togetherness. The only things that kind of gave me a little bit of worry was the shot selection and probably the execution down in the clutch. But outside of that, they gave me enough confidence to believe in them to continue to move forward in the in the NCAA tournament if we continue to line up with the proper seeding.
Jimmy, you agree? You feel better about this team?
I do, and in fact, my feeling is this: Tennessee went from a team that I couldn't trust to a team that is a little bit more reliable right now. And I say reliable because they did beat Florida twice. They pushed Alabama, the best team in the SEC, and the 6th-ranked team in the country, to the limit. Had a very good chance to win that game. I think the defense has played well during that stretch. Offensively, they did have some droughts, but they didn't have a 49-point game like they did the first time they played Florida. So offensively, I think they're a little bit better in that regard. So I do feel a little bit more confident about their consistency. It hadn't always been there. The 14-0 Alabama run, you're down by 14 to Florida the first time you played them on a Sunday a week ago, but at least I see a little bit more consistency with this group, so I feel better about them.
Yeah, I think you look at what you saw this past week, the 2 games against Florida and the 1 against Alabama, and you say, if you can do that, you can play against anybody in the tournament. You get the right matchups in the tournament, you can be okay. At the same time, you can always turn the numbers. Tennessee in their last 8 games was still 4-4. Tennessee in their last 15 games, still 8-7. But I'm with you guys. I think what we saw against Florida now, especially in Nashville, I thought was a step forward. I wonder, in terms of the committee, like I say, Tennessee is kind of right on that 5-6 line. We don't know Fulkerson's status. I wonder if the committee will look at that and take that into account at all, and that could hurt Tennessee if they think he may not be in there. I would like to think that wouldn't be a case, but it is a concern. His his availability moving forward is not only a concern for the committee and how they seed them, but also for Tennessee. I mean, being without him in the tournament is going to be very difficult.
I remember years ago, wasn't it Kenyon Martin from Cincinnati was hurt, and they dropped him from a 1 seed to a 2 because he was out?
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you're arguing for Tennessee, you would say Fulkerson didn't play against Alabama and you led them by 15 points in the second half. But I do think there's a potential if the committee is weighing Tennessee as a 5 and somebody else is a 6, that could hurt Tennessee a little bit. But it's interesting, I had written down, I had Tennessee as a 5 seed, and that's what it looks like they'll be. But I think there's a chance of that with Fulkerson, but it could be offset by the fact that you did play Alabama as well as you
Well,
did.
what I'll say is that they may take that into account, because that's something that the committee would take into account, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is if Fulkerson could maybe put on a mask. We know what individual players look like when they go, they break a bone in their face or they break a nose and they put on a mask. So Fulkerson, if you're listening, if you're able to, put on a mask, elevate your skills, elevate your game, and, we might make that Final Four run.
Was it Bill Lambier that used to play with that well before your days?
Rick, what was that? We had LeBron, Rip Hamilton,
That's right,
all Derrick Rose, all the guys put on the mask, they turned up.
The other thing is we don't know any results in terms of his concussion protocols.
Sure.
And that's the trick. But that is what a terrible, terrible incident to have happened when it happened for Tennessee. I wanted to compare this Tennessee team to previous Final Four teams because, again, you look at how they played against Alabama, and Dick Vitale said it as well. This team has the talent with 3 potential NBA guys, 3 former 5-stars. They got the talent to play with anybody. They could make a Final Four run. I don't know that I trust them to do that. The point guard issue, the ball handling issue worries me. But I wanted to see how does this team compare to past Final Four teams. So let me put up the graphic here. I took a look and I compared them. I used Ken Pomeroy's rankings, and those are the ones that all the basketball coaches use. Pomeroy's great. In terms of the last 10 Final Fours, that's 40 teams. Only 11 of those 40 teams have had an overall Ken Pomeroy rating lower than Tennessee's. So that's not great. In terms of offensive efficiency, this is the worry. Only 2 of those last 40 Final Four teams have been worse in terms of offensive efficiency than Tennessee has. On the other hand, and this is impressive, there are only 5 teams that have made the Final Four in the last 10 years who've played have had better defensive efficiency than Tennessee. So that would be in favor of you making it. And then I thought this was surprising in terms of possessions per game, the tempo. Only 8 teams play faster. Typically, teams slow it down when you get into March. It's one of the reasons that in the past, Bruce Pearl has run into trouble when he was here. Now he made a Final Four. He's adjusted his game, become more of a 3-point guy. But when he was here, he had some tournament issues where teams would slow it down on him, and that was that. Tennessee playing surprisingly faster than most of these Final Four teams. Just thought that was interesting to throw out there. The comparison, the team that Tennessee is most like, when you look at the numbers, Frank Martin's South Carolina team that made the Final Four a couple years ago. That would be, and they made it. But that's kind of the framework that Tennessee would have to follow to get there. They're built a little bit like that team in terms of those numbers you see there.
Well, if you built like that, I think you have to play to your strengths. So if they're playing really good defensively, that also means they get in the passing lane, they're getting live ball steals. And so hopefully we're able to turn those live ball steals into points. And so if only 8 teams play faster, that also means point guard play may not be the emphasis of the team, but team ball might be the emphasis of the game moving forward because necessarily don't have a primary ball handler, so everyone needs to shoulder the responsibility. And so what you've seen is throughout the SEC tournament, you've seen a little bit Keon Johnson having the ball a little bit more. We're leaning more on him. First half, he had a really stellar first half of 16 points, but it kind of slowed down in the second half with only 4 points. So maybe we got to try to figure out how to continue to stay with the hot hand and to increase our efficiency on the offensive end, and while we're still playing stellar defense.
And I think they're more efficient when they are faster.
Yes.
I don't think they're as good in the half court as they are when they're running the floor.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, and we do this every year, we're going to break down the DNA of the teams that beat Tennessee this year. What types of teams give Tennessee trouble? And the reason we do this, and I'm just going to explain the system next, but the reason we do this is we're going to show you the good and bad matchups on paper that Tennessee should be looking for on today's Selection Sunday show. We'll do that next on the Sports Source. Come on back.